Coming up on Market to Market, a trade trip nets optimism while details and documents are left incomplete. The cattle market retraces after sorting the import story, and the competition for bragging rights in the world of the giant pumpkin, and commodity market analysis with Sue Martin next.
I wouldn't be here without my customers.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the customers. They're very dear to our hearts.
It's about the people that you're working with and the relationships that you have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Tomorrow. For over 100 years, we've worked to help our customers be ready for tomorrow. Trust in tomorrow. Information is available from a Grinnell Mutual agent today.
This is the Friday, October 31 edition of Market to Market, the weekly journal of rural America.
Hello, I'm Paul Yeager. Government-issued economic data remains a casualty of the shutdown of most operations inside the U.S. government. Reports on durable goods and the PCE, the preferred inflation gauge of the Federal Reserve, were left unissued this week. Saturday would have marked the first day no SNAP benefits would have been issued under the current shutdown. However, two federal judges issued an injunction Friday to keep the money flowing. The Fed did lower the key interest rate by a quarter point, the second consecutive cut this year. But the biggest news came from the anticipation and meeting of President Trump and some of his Asian counterparts. The Chinese announced a purchase of U.S. soybeans hours before a meeting between Presidents Trump and Xi. The president rated that meeting a 12 on a scale of 1 to 10. But questions remain. What did the U.S. give China in the negotiation, and when will there be a signed document on the verbal agreement? Whether your optimism is tempered or not, the market loved the deal. Peter Tubbs reports.
Elements, large amounts, tremendous amounts of the soybeans and other farm products are going to be purchased immediately, starting immediately. If you notice, President Xi authorized yesterday for China to start. Did you know that?
The details of the announcement included a promise to buy 12 million metric tons of soybeans in the final months of 2025 and a minimum of 25 million metric tons annually for the next 3 years. If realized, the deal would return Chinese soybean purchases to near the average of 26.6 million metric tons the country imported between 2011 and 2024. China purchased 27 million metric tons in 2024. This year, China purchased 5 million metric tons of soybeans before halting purchases in May. Caleb Ragland, president of the American Soybean Association, commented on the deal. Today's announcement is great news for American agriculture, and soybean farmers are extremely grateful to President Trump for making soybeans a priority in negotiations with China. The status of Chinese tariffs on American agricultural products remains in word only, as details and documents are still unclear, as is the status of U.S. tariffs on Chinese products. The president has stated he will drop the duty on Chinese goods from 57% to 47%, but has yet to do so. Late in the week, Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins added more information to the administration's announcement.
I think is a huge win for our soybean farmers in the short term. But the long term, the conversations have to continue. We can't be so reliant on one market for our farmers to sell in, because hopefully we're happy kumbayaing together for a long time with China, but we may not be.
China has purchased an average of 25% of the U.S. soybean crop over the last 15 years. The cattle complex is still sorting last week's news about increasing imports from Argentina and other impacts the administration may have had in the futures and cash markets.
You know, we're in such a tenuous political and economic environment, broadly speaking, that the market is just really sensitive and really jumpy about anything.
A meeting with top agricultural officials from the U.S. and Mexico ended with no changes to the border policy, keeping Mexican cattle from being imported into the U.S., and keeping domestic supplies in the feedlot tight, mostly because of concerns over the New World screwworm. Even if U.S. imports of Argentine ground beef increase, the amount is just over 2% of all beef imported into the country, and only part of the supply story.
The first 7 months of the year, Brazil was the largest source of imports, more than 10 times as much imports as Argentina, but similar product. And as with most of our beef imports, the bulk of that product is lean processing type beef that goes largely into our ground beef markets. And because of and of course, that supplements our domestic supplies of, we call it non-fed beef. We absolutely have to have those imports in order to sustain a critical ground beef market in the U.S. 40 to 45% of our total beef consumption in this country is ground beef.
Peel adds that prices for all cuts are going to rise because of the factors pushing on the market right now: a limited supply of live animals because of herd liquidation due to drought. For Market to Market, I'm Peter Tubbs.
Charlie Brown has plans tonight to wait for the Great Pumpkin. Or he could just go visit the UK's Patton twins, Stuart and Ian, for their newly achieved world record heaviest pumpkin of 2,819 pounds. Genetics are a part of the trend to bigger gourds, but patience and luck help in the harvest. Here's Josh Bittner with our cover story.
All right, are you guys ready? Travis Ginger of Minnesota, here you go. What do we got? 2471, 2471.
After another cross-country haul, the current giant pumpkin world record holder fell short of his 2,749-pound feat from 2023, but still managed to top the scales last year at the annual Half Moon Bay, California World Championship Pumpkin Weigh-Off. It's a meticulous feat he's achieved 4 of the past 5 years, competing with mostly West Coast growers.
I'm using a lot of biologicals, mycorrhiza, bacillus blends when I'm burying these vines in a special blend of potting soil, and then the roots just scream out the side.
Often referred to as the Super Bowl of giant pumpkins,
He's going to get a check for $22,000.
Half Moon Bay touts big prize money. $9 per pound for first place and up to $30,000 for setting a new world record. Ginger fell short this year when his potential prize winner split in the field. Last year's second place winner moved up to claim top prize.
You're not going into it thinking, hey, I'm going to make a profit or something like that. But if you do, that's a bonus, right? It's really for the camaraderie of the community of growers. Everybody shares the secrets and shares the growing tips and shares seeds.
Trading seeds is important, and we always prepare to invite new growers. It's like me, you know, we always carry them and then just hand them out.
Decades ago, in Mexico, University of Michigan archaeologists unearthed the earliest known proof of Western agriculture: pumpkin-related squash seeds. When Christopher Columbus arrived, they were a common indigenous crop with several varieties native to the Americas. Shipping them all back to Europe resulted in various cultural connotations, and larger tropical and subtropical specimens began to realize further potential when unleashed in northern soils. But it was William Warnock of Goderich, Ontario, Canada, who kicked the door wide open, growing World's Fair records in 1893 and 1900. Long before the Gateway Arch graced the city's skyline, lightning struck a third time as Warnock notched his final world record in St. Louis.
This is an exhibit that explores the history of the 1904 World's Fair. It's one of the largest events in St. Louis's history. Over 19 million people came to St. Louis to visit the World's Fair and to see people and products and ideas from all over the world.
Missouri public historian Adam Kloppe says Warnock's crowd-pleasing 403-pound mammoth squash, or giant pumpkin, was a record that held for over 70 years.
After the fair, it was bought by the Rennie Seed Company of Toronto for $10, and then they sold the seeds for 25 cents under the name Goderich Giant.
Though Pennsylvanian Bob Ford grew a 451-pounder in 1976, it was another Canadian, Howard Dill of Windsor, Nova Scotia, who broke the dam for the modern era. Dill's father had given Goderich giant seeds a whirl and passed the torch to Howard. After logging 459 and 493.5-pound world records in 1980 and 81, respectively, Howard patented his selectively bred Dill's Atlantic Giants, the genetic basis for all world record giant pumpkins today.
You never know who's out there. It's going to come up big, and with the seeds, there's no limit to what the potential of these things may grow to. And if somebody has a little bit of luck and a good growing season, who's to know?
Growers jumped on the bandwagon, associations formed, and standards were drawn up to coordinate Columbus Day weigh-offs at sites in the U.S., UK, and Canada.
Howard was a really nice fella. He would always take the time to talk to you. And I know he was a busy man because everybody, he told me once, everybody was constantly reaching out to him. The phone never quit ringing.
Infighting gave birth to a new standard bearer, the Great Pumpkin Commonwealth, or GPC. Anamosa, Iowa's Memorial Ryan Norland Weigh-Off, named in honor of co-founder Tom Norland's nephew and helper, was one of the early sanctioned sites.
We were always told that we were probably not going to be able to grow as large a pumpkins as they were growing in southern Canada, New England, Minnesota, you know. But that has proved really not to be the case.
Norland has since stepped aside, but his brother Greg and family have continued to build and honor their son Ryan's memory.
This is one of the original 4 sites. I mean, winning Anamosa, that's like top notch right there.
The pumpkin master, his knuckles are white on the wheel.
Sanctioned sites, grower methods, and plant genetics have grown exponentially since the 1980s.
The official weight, 1,933.5 pounds.
World records have been broken almost 30 times.
This is all just witchcraft anyway, but there's a little bit of vibration here, but more so, yeah. It's gonna weigh more than it estimates.
Iowan and GPC Hall of Famer Don Young, who fell short of an official 2007 world record by just 27 pounds, says he was the first Midwesterner crazy enough to venture out and win Half Moon Bay. That 2009 milestone was a calculation based in part around the kind of bluffing and misdirection some growers are known for.
It's chess.
On Young's heels, Pete Kaspers holds Iowa's state record, 2,424 pounds. He regularly captures top spots at regional weigh-offs, which promote unique festivities and help boost local economies.
Oh my goodness!
Don Young, he was Mr. Iowa that we had. Before Don Young, it was Bob Ruff from Garnavillo, Iowa. I mean, they're both in books, and it's like, it's kind of my turn, I think.
As Kaspers claws his way up the food chain, Half Moon Bay is on his bucket list. Database technology may have made simultaneous same-day worldwide weigh-offs go by the wayside, but the prestige remains.
And when the work's all through, you'll have a pumpkin that you grew.
What's the giant pumpkin equivalent of I'm going to Disneyland?
Yeah, this is the giant pumpkin of going to Disneyland.
Driving night and day out to Half Moon Bay for a memory or two.
For Market to Market, I'm Josh Bittner.
One of my chores, working out.
Next, the Market to Market report.
The Senate voted 3 times this week to limit the president's move to use his emergency powers to increase tariffs on China and Brazil. For the week, the nearby wheat contract gained 22 cents and the December corn contract added 8 cents. Soybeans seem to be along for the ride, or the Trade and Tariff Express on board that ship. The January soybean contract improved 55 cents, while December meal put on $27.50 per ton. December cotton expanded by $1.36 per hundredweight. Over in the dairy parlor, December Class 3 milk futures fell by a dime. The livestock market was lower. December cattle sold off $4.25. January feeders cut $16.28, and the December lean hog contract weakened 62 cents. In the currency markets, the U.S. dollar index was higher by 88 ticks. November crude oil dropped 69 cents per barrel. COMEX gold lost $101.80 per ounce. And the Goldman Sachs commodity index was down almost 5 points to settle at 556.90. Here now to lend us her insight on these and other trends is one of our regular market analysts, Sue Martin. Hello, Sue.
Hi there, Paul.
This wheat story continues to be one that kind of falls to the back burner. We just aren't focused on it. Why was it along for the ride with corn this week?
Well, I think wheat was, first off, we had a nice, good rally in oats. There's that old saying, oats no, but wheat leads. And oats fell apart and even in one day lost 25 cents at one time. And then the wheat market took off and started to confirm. And I think what it is, you've priced in all the good crops that have been produced around the world. There isn't much more negative news to throw at this market. And so I think the wheat market has made a bottom, and I expect better times ahead here for this wheat market.
Even maybe a way to attract buyers possibly late in the day was part of the story. But let's move to corn, because for a minute, if I blanked out, I thought maybe you were talking about corn. Weathered the storm, continues to fight, and have we maybe turned the corner?
I think corn's in a corrective phase at this time. It lacks maybe some nice news as far as the China U.S. agreements. It wasn't, the tariffs were pulled off of corn, but on the same token, there was no talk about it. And sorghum was a huge benefactor in this negotiation. And I'm not surprised. Sorghum is so dirt cheap. I mean, corn's cheap, sorghum's much cheaper. And we have a lot of it. So I'm not surprised at that. But the corn market, I think as we go forward in time, we've had less feed usage because of animals not coming in across the border. And yes, we're feeding animals heavier, but a lot of feeders haven't made it here to consume corn. So I think that's one change we're going to see here in time. When I look at the markets, it's funny how this 447 area, 440 area is like a tough area. I will say to producers, if you have sold cash and you're looking to buy back, which many of them are, and we estimate that the corn farmer is probably 30-35% sold. I would recommend going as far out as you can. So July this year, last year we thought, you'd have a rally into January, whatever. This year is different. I think this year we're going to see highs more in the summer. A year of a six, the last, since 1916, so we'll have 11 of them. 1 year made a high in June, that was 2016. 1 year made a high in May. 3 made a high in July, 2 made a high in August, and 2 in September, and 2 in December. So the favoritism is more towards the heart of summer this coming year. We've got one more step. We're going to go further with that study, and we're going to pull out, once we can get the USDA up and working.
Get those numbers back.
Pull out data, and of course we can get old data back, and we want to take a look at those years and the years of a 5 before it. Take a look at stocks to usage, exports, just various different fundamentals. And I'm wondering if there isn't going to be something similar in many of those years to kind of guide us even more, like, will this be a July high? I don't think it's going to be a June. So we're telling producers, if you're in options, go at least to July. You may have to roll once, but that's where we're at.
So it sounds like a technical story in corn, but in beans, it sounds like, all this talk is about fundamentals. It's about China, it's about enforcement, it's about, are they going to follow through? Are they? Pick a question, Sue, you can go with it.
Well, first off, my take on this time around, and I tend to be an optimist, so I digress, but China knows President Trump pretty well. And the last time around, when they finally agreed to the Phase 1 agreement, then they went into lockdown for 3 years. Who would have thought 3 years? And it was because Sinograin, a lot of their granary managers had been lying, and they were finding out that their granaries were nearly empty. And so they knew food was very critical, plus the fact trying to curb COVID, and then also President Xi wanted to make sure he got reelected. After that was over with, then the country came out of lockdown. It took 3 years. So, but this time, after they got past that COVID situation and into a new president, they weren't held accountable. They were let go. And so why wouldn't they take advantage of that? This time around, it's not going to be that way. And I thought it was interesting, 25 million metric tons of beans for each year the next 3 years. That's when President Trump goes out of office. Now, they're going to re-look at things in a year, and that's going to be very critical. But I think they'll follow up on this, at least for the next year. And truthfully, Brazilian beans have already dropped 50 cents. So they're now the cheapest from January forward in the world.
Which has been what we've been fighting too.
Yes.
For all of this. So real quick on beans, Sue. I mean, are we going to? Do you need us to hold right now?
I think the bean market's still going to try to kind of grind its way higher. Now that we're over $11 on January beans, for example, even a lead contract of beans, continuous, there's a gap from around 11.20. Let's see here, 11.29 to 11.37, and I think you go after that gap. Then it's the 11.60 area, something like that. But beans have been inside range all year. And you had to ask why, when last year we had Chinese buying, but not this year. And last year we didn't have tariffs, and we did this year, and yet we couldn't take out those lows. That seemed awful strange. I think China, we have to keep in mind, China can use our Board of Trade just as well as we can, and they're probably using it as they deal with marketing over in Brazil. Now, I've also understand that they've washed out of some cargoes here just recently, and I suspect those are cargoes that would have shipped by the end of December.
And that's what one of those concerns is going forward that could happen again. We need to go to livestock because that was still a big story from last week. Yeah. I want to start out of order a little bit and talk more about heifers. Joel in Oklahoma wants to know, retain or buy heifers this fall for breeding next year at these prices or wait?
I'm going to tell him to wait. And the reason I say that, when I was on the show last time, and it was actually the show where we were doing the 50th, I talked about, I thought we'd see higher highs in September. We didn't make the higher highs in September. Instead, we had an inside down month. And then we came back in October, took out the lows of September, and then flew and took out and made new all-time highs on every single contract, with the exception of taking out the August contract high in August. So the market, I believe, has topped, and the psychology has changed. And one thing we have to keep in mind, going back to 1975, 76, every year, first off, in those years, I would have to say there were 4 other years similar to this one, where the June contract made the highs for the year. Then the August came up and took the June highs out and made higher highs. One of those years, now 2 of those years have made the high in August. One of those years put the high in September, one in October, and one in November. All of the years broke into December. And I think our market's going to go down in December. I don't care if we make an inside up month in November. I think it's going to roll right back over and fall. I think the one thing, so I'm thinking that he'll get a better chance to buy heifers cheaper next year than this year. Now, a year of a 6, we're ending a year of a 6 next year. All of them has taken, since 1975, 76, every one of them has closed lower at the end of a year of a 6 than you did at the end of a year of a 5.
Which could be part of the, we have to ramp up and try to expand and retention and all these things are going on. I'll get into that a little bit in plus, but I need to ask you in the final few seconds about hogs. They went lower this week. Is this still just a response to what's been going on with beef?
I think a little bit, and I think the hog market seems like we're following with marketings and what have you, similar to what the pig crop report indicated. So the USDA might be a little more on target this time. But I do think the hog market's in line for a nice little corrective rally. Will it be one that holds us all the way into February? A lot of times you'll rally hogs into February, but I think you'll rally, pull back, and then we might try to make another effort. But I wouldn't sell hogs here. I wouldn't do that.
You'd be holding just a tiny bit longer.
I think so.
Okay. Well, I have great questions here and a lot more I know that's on your brain that we'll get to here in a few minutes.
No,
Sue?
you know, that brain could be shallow.
Well, we'll find out here in a little bit. Thanks, Sue. Great to see you. All right, that's Sue Martin, everybody, and you have been watching the analysis segment. In a moment, we are going to continue in that online-only segment that we call Market Plus. So here's how you find it. Search Market Plus with Sue Martin wherever you get your podcast to hear that conversation. Or here's a different way. Go onto our website of markettomarket.org. We have the transcript right there. I want to let you know that our Facebook page has been a place for much back and forth over the news of the day here recently. This week, we posted links to that 50th anniversary show program that featured 11 of our analysts. Sue was just talking about it because she was on it as well. Join in on that Facebook page, see what else is there when you follow Market to Market. Next week, we are going to look at the journey of this year's World Food Prize laureate. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week.
Market to Market is a production of Iowa PBS, which is solely responsible for its content.
I wouldn't be here without my customers.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the customers. They're very dear to our hearts.
It's about the people that you're working with and the relationships that you have.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Tomorrow. For over 100 years, we've worked to help our customers be ready for tomorrow. Trust in tomorrow. Information is available from a Grinnell Mutual agent today.